Good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. This is Josh. I'm going to be your presenter today. We're here to talk about accounting, adding, deleting, and editing accounts in accounting in your chart of accounts. We have to state now in the video that none of the people or information in our training data that we're seeing here today are real. All right, so we're talking about adding, deleting, editing accounts in Church Windows Accounting today, all right? Church Windows Accounting has a ridiculously good audit trail, okay? We really do try to protect you and the information that's entered in the software with regards to certainly things like your transactions, things like that, entries, data as it's being entered. But there is also a really decent amount of flexibility that comes along with it. And certainly that is never more true than when it comes to dealing with the actual accounts in your chart of accounts, okay? First, you may always add or edit accounts in Church Windows Accounting at any time, all right? You can add new funds, new assets, liabilities, vendors, income expense accounts anytime. Church Windows has no restriction on how many accounts you add into your chart of accounts, okay? Also, you can go into the chart of accounts and you can edit the names and numbers of accounts at any time. Doesn't matter. Folks call me on support calls all the time and they go, oh, well, do I have to wait till the end of the year to be able to change my account numbers or my account names? The answer is simply no. You can change those names and numbers, and we're going to walk through some details of how to do that at any time throughout the year. All you're doing is changing it in the year that it occurs. Okay, it's not changing it for other periods. I'll talk about that later on here in a moment. But changing names, account names, and account numbers is permissible at any time throughout the accounting year. Okay, deleting accounts on the other hand is a completely different matter entirely. If an account has a balance in the current year and in the accounting year, or activity of any kind, and that can include transactions that were entered and later reversed. If either of those are in play, the account cannot be deleted. All right? So just be aware, editing and adding accounts anytime can be done. Deleting accounts, not so much. Okay? Adding, editing, or deleting accounts occurs only in the accounting year when it occurs and will not affect past accounting years. Okay? The accounting year is not, accounts or chart of accounts is not a global, is not global. What I mean is it's not true for all the accounting history in there. The chart of accounts is specific to each one of your accounting years. So if I'm making changes in 2024, it's only potentially going to be changing accounts. It's changing accounts in 2024 and beyond. It is not going back into prior years and making changes in those older or previous or prior accounting years. Okay? Each year's chart of accounts is separate or different. And that's what makes them different. That's what allows you to make a change in one year without affecting another. And that's true here as well. Okay. Again, any changes I make in 24, when I open 25, those new features or changes that I've made in the current year will be brought forward into 25. But it's not going to affect 23 or earlier. Okay. And since we're talking about a topic that really is making major and potentially destructive, harmful changes to your data, very important. If you're unsure about what you're doing here and if you're going to want to keep it, make a backup of your data before you begin this process, okay? It is the only way to undo the work that you've done specifically when it comes to any of this, whether it's deleting or renaming or anything. Yeah, sure. You can always go back in and change the account names back or account numbers back, okay? But then you got to remember what you did. So it's maybe just easier to go in and make a backup of the Church Windows database. So then if you go, oh, in an hour from now, oh, I don't like all the changes that I've made, you can just go back into your backup, restore the backup, and you're back to where you started an hour ago. All right? Backup is as simple as going under here in the home screen into administration and backup. Hopefully, I really hope, and if not, I please encourage you to do so, hope everyone is backing up your data regularly. This is particularly true for desktop users, but it is honestly also recommended for cloud or Church Windows web users as well, okay? If you have questions or need help with that, please reach out to us. We're happy to work on it with you. I like helping people save their data because when, I'm not going to get a call from you, in 6 months from now going, oh, my computer crashed, where do I get my data, and we go, have you been making backups, because Church Windows doesn't back up itself, okay? That is each user's separate responsibility, okay? So once we got the backup made, we've got peace of mind that we can get back to that starting point, okay, where we start this, all right? And so the backups are very simple, very easy. Put it on a flash drive, external hard drive, doesn't matter. Just put it on the desktop. Just make sure you're getting it out of Church Windows so you can go back to it later if you absolutely need to. All right, 8 minutes of other stuff here before we're now talking about editing and editing and deleting accounts. Adding accounts. Typically, folks, there's, you can perform the function of adding or editing or deleting accounts in typically more than one way in Church Windows accounting, all right? And I'm going to show you a couple of each of them at least, and there might even be more in some cases. But the best and easiest way to add accounts to the chart of accounts is to go right up here to chart of accounts in the upper left, right below that accounts plus minus. The buttons now change, and in the upper left, we've got assets, AR clients, liabilities, accounts payable, vendors, funds, income and expense. Everybody hopefully should be able to see that in the upper left up here. Okay, these are the buttons that I'm talking about right here. Okay, so once you choose one of those particular options, it opens up, say if I choose assets, it says, opens up my setup chart of accounts window, shows me my list of existing asset accounts, and I can enter a new account name and asset. So CD, whatever number it is, tab down, enter an account number. You can look down in your existing accounts down here, and I can go, okay, I've got a 120 series here. I can make this maybe 120, 110. And, choose the subtotal, click Add Account. I've now added that asset, okay? Other accounts are added the same way, so I don't even have to close the window. If I go, oh, I want to add some other liabilities, I can simply click on Liabilities up here, and notice it says leaves the Setup Chart of Accounts, and the window now says right here, reads in the center, let me get my highlighter, right here, Create Liability Account. So without even closing the window, I've now changed what type of an account I'm adding to my chart of accounts, okay? That is the most common and typically the most intuitive way that folks can add accounts to your chart of accounts, okay? The other way to do that, if you're not, and again, you can add every single account type here, all right? Everyone that's in your chart of accounts. The only time you can't enter here are those in donations, and those are giving accounts. That's different database, okay? But if I go into Manage Accounts or into Chart of Accounts in View in the upper left here at the Chart of Accounts, folks are often surprised at what you can actually do here, okay? Typically now we're going to click over here on the right-hand side under the tab called Tree View, and it doesn't matter whether I'm on my Huntington Bank checking. But if we notice here on the right, it now says assets, liabilities, and funds, okay? And the reason why we don't see income and expenses here is because those are all linked to our funds down here, all right? So if I'm on any particular type of an account, so if I go right here over right-click over liabilities, notice I get Add New Liability Account. Click on that, opens up and says, what account name and number do you want to give it, and where do you want to add it in subtotals? All right. Same is true for funds. Right-click, Add New Fund. If I expand and I go down and I right-click over, say, my general operating fund, now notice I get a lot more options. I can add a fund. I can add an income account to general operating fund, add an expense account to general operating fund, or edit general operating fund. There's a lot of flexibility here, folks. On my support calls, I use this edit function on the Tree View tab all the time with my users because it's basically, once you know how to do that here, you kind of don't forget it, and it becomes a really quick and easy place to add just a single account without having to go elsewhere into the software. All from the Tree View. Oh, and I'm going to show you more. We're not done here. Okay. All right. Typically, these are the places where you're going to edit accounts. All right. As well, you can add, but I'm just saying you can add them well here as well as edit. And maybe some of you did see as well that when I right-clicked over General Operating Fund, it shows, yeah, I have an option called Edit. You can edit any account on this screen under the Tree View tab as well. But there's more to it than that as well. I'll come back to the edit momentarily. Let's talk about deleting accounts. All right. So if I go up to Chart of Accounts again, Accounts Plus Minus, and choose, say, income or expense accounts. Here now I have to choose the fund that I'm looking at the income or expense accounts for, right? Because that's how they're linked. Income and expense accounts are always associated with a fund of some kind, one of the funds. In this case, I've got my general operating fund. But notice down here in the bottom left-hand corner down here, see the column called Delete right here? So basically, if an account is eligible for deletion, it will show a checkbox there, as we clearly see on some of our accounts. All right, let me expand this window a little bit here. Maybe enlarge that without maximizing it. But we notice some say NA. And the reason why that is, it could be, there's three reasons why. It could have a balance, it could have activity, or in this particular case, these accounts like minister's salary and associate ministers have sub-accounts. So if I want to consider deleting those, I'd have to go into the sub-accounts to the right, and now notice I can now check delete. Okay? But basically, if there's NA next to any account, there's a reason why that account cannot be deleted for whatever reason, balance, activity, or in this case, subledger or sub-accounts. Any accounts that have checkboxes available, I can simply put a check mark in those, okay? And then down at the bottom, click Delete Selected Accounts. That zaps that out of the chart of accounts. It's gone. There is no audit history involved in these accounts if it permits you to delete that. In 2024, I mean, excuse me, let me qualify that. So there may be history in other years, but also deleting this account in 24 does not delete the same account in any other accounting year. If I were to delete my custodian supplies in 24, it is still going to be in my chart of accounts in 23 and earlier. If I delete an account I shouldn't, I just need to add it back to the chart of accounts. Don't overthink it. All right? So again, easy way, I can select multiple accounts to delete simultaneously, click Delete Selected Accounts. I believe if I do this, it's going to pop up and ask me after each account or before each account is deleted and ask me if I'm sure I want to delete that. Okay? But if I am, I'll just click yes on it and it zaps the account out. Okay, boom. Are you sure you want to delete portions of church portion? Oh, no, I need that for payroll. So I'm going to say no to that. So I'd uncheck that account. So it gives you one option to be able to back out of it before you actually delete it. And again, if I did delete it when I didn't intend to, I would simply, folks, add the account back to my chart of accounts. Okay? That's option number one for deleting accounts. The other option for deleting them is to go back into our Tree View tab in our chart of accounts. So if I come down here now into my chart of accounts and I go down into my funds, say, and go into my general operating fund, and let me find an account that I think I may not have any activity in. So right here, yeah, so I've got Handbell's income linked to my general fund. If I right-click on it, delete Handbell's income is in the list. If that would have been back under my chart of accounts window, my setup chart of accounts window there as well, okay? But this allows me to delete accounts from the chart of accounts right here one at a time on the Tree View tab as well, okay? So these are typically the two most common ways that accounts, if you've got a handful of accounts you're deleting, you know, maybe a couple, maybe two or three, even from the standpoint of deleting or adding accounts, adding these at either the setup chart of accounts screens under accounts plus minus in the top left or on the Tree View tab is really okay. But if you've got a bunch of accounts you're wanting to delete simultaneously, really what we recommend is going right up here to Special Functions, Manage Years, and Delete Unused Accounts, okay? This is where you can get see an entire list of accounts that are eligible for deletion right now, and it can delete them all in one fell swoop. There's a video, folks, out on the website on working with deleting unused accounts and accounting years. I'm going to refer you to that if you're interested in you doing an en masse deletion there. If we go back to churchwindows.com here and we go to, let me maximize that right here to Resource Center, and let's go down. It's going to take a second to load. Where is it? There it is. Let me see, unused. Manage years. Manage years part 2, delete unused accounts and deleting accounting years. That, folks, is a video that'll detail where you can delete, how to use the delete unused accounts function in Church Windows. That's as much as I'm going to say about that, okay? All right, with about 12 minutes left, let's talk a little bit about editing accounts now, all right? This is a really, really important one. All right, so again, we're kind of bouncing back and forth between screens, but it's important that you know where these are. So if we go back into chart of accounts and view into our chart of accounts, let's say a lot of folks are unaware right here that you can change account names and numbers right here on the left, okay? So if I go, all right, I really want to change these CD accounts to a different series of numbers. I want to move them further down my list. So I can click right in here and I can backspace and change those to 40, change my other one right here, backspace to 40, and notice it's now shifted those down in my chart of accounts. A lot of folks are unaware that you can change these names and numbers right here, okay? So if I go right here, land and building assets, so if I go land and building assets, see, I'm editing that account name right here, all permissible right here, nothing to save. The software saves it automatically. Whatever you need to do. Again, a really handy way to do it if you're wanting to be able to change just one or two or a handful of accounts. And I can do that with any account in the chart of accounts, okay? Under my, accounts here, income accounts. Like right here, gains, losses on investments, contributions to missions. Typically, these accounts would be specific to the type of account that they are, right? So you can come in here and click on any of these accounts and maybe make them more complete by adding the words like income or expense to those so they're clearer on your chart of accounts or on your reports. This is particularly important if you're not using account numbers in your chart of accounts. We strongly advise that you do. But if you're not using account numbers, the account names become vitally important for knowing which type of an account you're working with. Like right here, down here, I've got telephone. Well, it kind of occurs as being an expense, but I could make it clearer by going, okay, I'm going to put in expense in that account name right there. Just go down the list and put in the word expense, okay? That easy. The other option that you've got here at the chart of accounts is, as we saw before, under our tree view. I can right-click and choose Edit Supply Pastor. Opens up, allows me to edit the name or the number and the subtotal that it is in right here. Okay? I find that this is particularly important. This is a really important place to look at editing, particularly when it comes to funds. So if we notice right here, we've got memorial fund balance, and here we notice all of our individual memorials, and they say the person's name, memorial fund balance. Well, we've got this one fund right here called Elliot Achidia Memorial. I want to fix that. Well, if I fix the account name right here, okay, that's not going to change the fund, which is the component that's kind of behind the scenes that we don't see, okay? So how we do that is we go right to the tree view. I right-click over the Elliot Achidia Fund, click Edit, and now we see all the components that are part of the fund. So I'm going to add the word balance to that. So I've got the Elliot Achidia Memorial Fund. Now I've got the actual account balance name, and then the account number and the subtotal. This is really the best and only way to see that kind of hidden component behind the scenes, which is actually he says with air quotes, the fund, okay? you'll see the account balance, the fund balance account everywhere on your reports, okay? Another place that we can see that, and I'm going to show you because it's really one that's commonly overlooked. Folks call me on support calls all the time, is under the list chart of accounts report. And if I include accounts, and I'm going to go to my columns and notice I've got account number, account name, and fund. So if I now click on print now, and it brings up my list chart of accounts report, okay, it takes a few seconds there, but when I scroll down into my funds now, notice we're seeing general operating fund balance account, then the fund name, and then the memorial fund balance account and the memorial fund name. So this feature, this part of the account, the fund that binds all the accounts or ties all the accounts together is often not seen. So editing the account name itself may not be enough. Okay, so when you're dealing with funds, maybe try editing those at the tree view tab on the chart of accounts, so you're ensuring that you're changing both the fund name and the fund balance account. The 300 number can receive and have transactions to it. So can the income and expenses linked to the fund. What doesn't have transactions is the fund itself. It ties them all together. Okay? All right, so let's see. Let me look at my document here that I wrote up on this. You folks, you cannot have two accounts in the chart of accounts with the same name. Doesn't matter whether they're the same or different types of accounts, cannot have two accounts with the same name. As I indicated before, if you need to, and they're like income and expense accounts, just add the word income or expense to it. If it's an asset, add checking or savings. It's, they're assets you own. Find some way to identify them differently because the software won't permit it. Okay. Lots of options for editing. Okay, both at the tree view, on the tree view, and at the chart of accounts itself. Okay, right here. Again, only making changes in 2024. Okay, so as indicated, with just a few minutes left, editing here and changing or deleting at either the chart of accounts here or under the accounts plus minus is really great if you've got a handful of accounts. But if you want to make a broad sweeping change to your accounts, either the numbers like you want to change it and you go, oh, I'm looking at my chart of accounts and I go 1.2xx.xxx, these 6-digit account number structure, I need to expand that. Okay, so you go up to here to special functions, change account number structure. Okay. And right here, it says you've got exclusive access here. I click OK on that. Again, might want to make a backup of your data. But right here, I've got my account number before renumbering. Let me get out my highlighter, draw some focus right here. Account number before renumbering. And then just to the right of that, account number after renumbering. Okay? So you can literally just go down the list into the account number after renumbering and just edit those accounts and save them en masse when they're done, when you're done. All right, really quick, everything is in here. Assets, liabilities, funds, income, and expenses. What's not in here are accounts payable vendors because they don't have account numbers. Okay, can't change account names here, just numbers. If I need to change my number of digits or my actual definition of my accounts, the only place I can change it is right up here in the upper left where it says change structure. See that button up here? So if I click on that up here, it now opens up and says, okay, what do you want your new account numbers to look like? Okay, so if I go, oh, I just want to add one more digit in the middle, I do that, shows me the new layout of my numbers, and I simply click OK, and notice it's added a trailing 0 to all of my accounts. Now just be aware, depending on how you do this, you may get some conflicts, and those have to be dealt with before it'll permit you to click Save. But this is the place to make large, sweeping changes to your account numbers and the definitions of your accounts. Okay, so that's the only place to do this. And then if I was happy with it, I would then click Save, and I'd be my chart of accounts is now changed for 2024 and beyond. Okay, let's see. Okay, well, folks, that with about 3 minutes left, is where we're going to leave things for today. You will find information both in your help files on these, on the editing accounts, adding accounts, deleting accounts. If you're on tiers 2 and 3, of course, for support with us, you can also find information in the training workbooks on these. But just FYI, you can find that in the printed material there. And again, that is where we're going to leave our topic for today.